would you like to introduce yourselves, please, in any order you want?
Okay. So I'm Raven Rissy of Netjer. I am one of the founders, and I am the lead vocalist.
I'm David. I'm the synth wizard.
I am Adrian, and I play drums.
Okay.
And I'm Elijah, and I play guitar, 8-string guitar.
Fantastic. So the name, I'm assuming that's come from Raven, your enthusiasm for ancient Egypt?
Yes. So the name Netjer is ancient Middle Egyptian, and it means a god's servant, which would be the equivalent to the word priest, basically. And it did come about from my studies in Egyptology at university. So that's kind of how that name got started.
Yeah, I did read that, and I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
that's all right. And what about the music? The music, what's influenced your style?
I think
you've got a very different style to a lot of others.
I think the first thing to add there was where the Egyptian influence came from, because it's not that the name was Egyptian and the first EP was, but a lot of it came from that inspiration of how they talked about sound. I think that was where the whole idea started. So maybe we can jump into
sure.
that.
So when I was studying, I was doing a class on ancient Egyptian literature, and lots of their literature talks about soundscapes and how sound was very important to their culture. But all we have now is imagery and text talking about and describing sounds and musical instruments that remain, but we don't have any musical notation or any audio or anything what it sounded like. So part of the inspiration for the band to get started was I thought it would be really interesting to do a concept album from one of their underworld stories, because they describe each section very detailed in the types of sounds you hear in each stage. So I thought it would be neat one day to do an album where it's like the 10 different stages is 10 different songs. But while that's still hopefully one day in the works, our first EP, Kemet, was based a lot on some of the ancient Egyptian concepts and some of their rituals and practices that that's been translated into English, so anybody can read them and things like that. So that's kind of how it got started in that regard. Yeah.
And the influences in general?
Musical influences in general, I would say for me personally, I listen to a lot of metal quite a bit. So there's a lot of symphonic and gothic metal coming from Northern Europe that I take some inspiration from. I listen to a lot of Northern European folk music. So bands like Wardruna, Danheim, Faun, they're German, Ivor, those types of bands. I listen to like the metal bands, also like Insomnium, Dark Tranquility, Moonspell, those types of bands. From the industrial side, there's a bunch of bands like Hex or Solve down in the States, Ivardensphere, those types of more tribal, heavier styled. And the idea was to try and combine those folk instruments and that folk element into a more modern electronic dance beat and trying to combine the two. So.
Yeah, it turns out there wasn't that much like that out there at that point in time. Like you mentioned, like it is quite different. And I think having that combination of old instruments or just analog instruments in general with like modern technology and music is something that we've, I think, all kind of worked towards together.
Exactly. And especially now with bringing on, drums and guitar, it's been really awesome to
the organic touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's more of a traditional band, but mixed with a little bit of old world and modern world.
Yeah.
It's all been blended in quite nice.
Yeah. Rizzy had a couple of just uncommon instruments that have been a part of the earlier albums, and even just adding an egg shaker specifically for that song instead of a sample, just specifically recording it for that song, kind of adds that depth and dynamic kind of element to it that kind of makes it pretty unique. And even with now having more people performing live, you get a whole different dynamic and how it feels and how it's played.
Yeah. Like I'm sure, like, you know, especially now with guitar, like Elijah has written some really wonderful parts, and I'm sure he could speak to, you know, some of his influences behind that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No. It's been. Or sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. No. Continue.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome to join this band and kind of like put a different spin on the existing songs and all that, because yeah, I basically like composed parts like over the existing songs that they had and sort of thing, and yeah, it's just like kind of breathes a new life into them, I guess, and all that, and especially with the live drums as well. And having been on stage with them at the last gig that we did in Vancouver, there, it was like really incredible to, you know, just feel that, you know, and there's just a new form of synergy, if you will, that I feel is just very, very cool. So I don't know. Yeah.
Wow. So are you performing your previous tracks, your previous songs?
Correct. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's now being replaced by the guitar and drums as instead of the throat singing. Wow.
Correct. Yeah.
And we have probably like a good 6 songs of new material already that we started working on together, which is also really interesting because it's kind of nice to see that it works together.
Yes. And we do have another studio musician that is in our song Salt and Tears. He's his name's Victor Noriega. He's formerly in one of the pagan folk bands Calibri. He lives in Spain. And he plays didgeridoo. And so he's been recording. He did a nice recording for that song when it came out on the album. We did a music video together, which was really wonderful. And he's going to also be adding some more into some of the newer songs as well with the didgeridoo. So it's going to be really awesome to bring that in there. And hopefully when we one day play Europe, he can come on stage and join us, because that would be super fun.
Very tribal.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Because that's unusual, because that's from Australia.
Yes, originally.
Yeah. So that's unusual from Spain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great.
I didn't even know he was from there, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. He lives in Spain.
Yeah, cool.
I'm so proud that we made a music video in 2 different countries.
Yeah,
or 2 different continents.
That was pretty cool.
Fantastic. So has your sound now changed a lot, or is it similar but just adjusted?
I would say similar but adjusted.
Yeah. I think with drums and the guitar, it's like a more organic sound, but it's still the essence, the same, still the type of vibe, like tribal and But I think the change is the show and live is like the organic sounds is like a complement of the base of the music. But basically, it's the same, but cooler.
It's more interactive and more. It just adds a little more depth into the music. Like especially with the live guitar and drums, you know, because like Adrian doesn't do a full kit. You know, there's still a lot of digital drums and samples that go on, which really blends in nicely to what's already in the backing tracks anyways. So it's just adding more effects onto what's still originally there.
I expect you sound, I don't know how you're going to answer this one, but it might take a bit of vanity if you want, but go for it. I guess you sound really good live.
I mean, we haven't had any negative complaints so far. So.
We had the last show, we had some great feedback. So we're really looking forward to being able to, you know, bring that on the road and play a couple more shows like
Absolutely.
that.
Especially now with this new lineup, because it works really well for everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Is it quite loud?
That's a good question. I think they did a good job in mixing it all well.
Yeah,
if that makes
sense, the sound was very good at the last show.
Yeah, you know, when you're at shows, I was at one a couple of weeks ago where it was just loud. That was it. And I'm like, I didn't hear anything of the music.
Yeah.
But I think they had like a I don't remember what sound system it was, but it all sounded like we've seen some recorded videos. It sounded really good.
Yeah, and we've, when we have our live mixes are definitely, everything's been dialed in to make sure that the nuances of the different levels and different layers within the songs, whether they're live or on the album, are still heard. So we do take a lot of time and consideration to make sure that when it's mixed, that it's not just the bass or it's just the guitar, like everything is blended quite nicely. And that's, I think, for us is a big, that's a big important thing when performing, because it's important to make sure that all of those things blend nicely and one just doesn't stand out over the other, as it were.
Yeah.
I have noticed that your last release was, I think that was the end of February, wasn't it?
Yes.
The depth, there is so many layers to your music. There really is so many layers. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's you kind of imagine nature being with you. It's just that whole feeling is just almost one with nature, bringing that into your music. And it's just sounds so good. It really does sound good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Really good to hear.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. We took a lot of time in that album and really, really did try to hone in on each song and what the not just the musical depth, but the physical and metaphysical and meanings behind each song. So, and the order in which each song plays an important role and stuff too. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a journey in a way. So you can, like, if you listen to it front to back, it is kind of like a journey, and some of it was interestingly came together after we had the songs. I mean, like, hey, that actually makes really sense to put them and listening to them in that order. So they do tell a story that way too. And it was done for a while already, so we were happy that we could finally release it.
Yeah.
It's such a great release. I mean, I wrote down here about Elemental Cry. How I just got this feeling that should have been a soundtrack for something like what do you call it, Avatar, or you could imagine a documentary with like an overhead footage of something speeding across the land, watching all the giraffes and elephants going across Africa. It just captures an incredible sound from that track. It's just phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, we work with Scott Fox from My Barden Sphere. He's our producer. So part of the goal in the music in general is to have that atmospheric element to it, whether it's live or on the albums, and so especially now, like with adding guitar, and the live and the more drums we're going to be recording, it's really going to, I think, really bring more of that atmospheric into the newer songs that are going to be coming forward.
It was really nice to work with somebody who kind of like got the idea too, with Scott Fox from Vardency, to be like, hey, this is what we want to do. Here's the songs. And he like took all of that was there and just elevated it, gave it like, that kind of fuller sound, which is really nice. And also just tell us when it's not good, because he had like it was great. We had like 2 songs where we're like, oh, we don't know what to do with it, we'll just send it off. And he's like, guys, no, I have to be honest with you here. You can do better. And he was right. So we went back, took it apart, and just rebuilt it, both of the songs, and they're turned out really, really great. So it's really good to have somebody there also who basically just can sometimes be like, hey, I know you can do better. Just push.
He's a great producer.
Yes.
To be able to say that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And he's, been a good friend of all of us for quite a while now. I know I've known him for almost 10 years just as a friend. I know Elijah, you've known him for quite a while.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to, it's based, the project's really a sum of all the parts. It's not just, one or 2 individuals.
When we had the first tracks and we sent them to him, it was like, hey, can you mix these? And he's like, can I go nuts with those? yes, please do. Yeah. So we did, just added like a whole new, without actually changing anything like completely, just added this like new level to it that kind of, like Rissy said, just was more than the sum of its parts in the end. The same with the music videos too.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant, though, isn't it? I mean, it's great to have someone as well who's got the courage to say to you if something's not quite right.
Absolutely.
That takes a lot to say that to somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and it was like David said, we were really grateful. I was a little bit like, writer's block. What do I do with this? I don't really know. But eventually, and we did work through it. And it's probably some of those songs are some of my favorites on the album. And they're, to sing, they're a lot of fun. So I am really, happy and grateful that we are able to have that type of working relationship.
That's good. That's good. Who does the writing, as in lyrics?
Lyrics is mostly myself. But Dave does do some, but most of the lyrics is me.
It's an interesting process sometimes because I usually put together some kind of melody or something, and then Rhys is like, "Hey, I have the right lyrics."
Here you go.
Sometimes it just works, right?
Together, and it's still an interesting process. So we're just trying right now to figure out how, with the new songs, to get everybody to write and contribute their parts to it. Because I think that I really like them, but it's amazing on just how much work and how long it takes to actually put a song together from beginning to end, right? Like you can get the skeleton done pretty quick, but then adding all the details and all the finesse and everything is quite a process.
Absolutely.
But I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And like what Elijah wrote for the guitar parts that he added in was like amazing. And so I was really grateful to have someone who can, I don't play guitar, so it'd be great to, I'm like, I want someone who knows how to do that, because I could tell you what to play, but I'd much rather have the musician who actually plays that part to come in and be like, hey, this is what I'm hearing. Same like with Adrian's drums, right? What he adds to it is really, I'm not a drummer. I can do some percussion, but I'm definitely not a drummer. So it's good to have those that knowledge also brought in as well.
People who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And know what you guys want as well. So have you all been friends since before this?
For the most part, yeah.
Love it, yeah.
2017, I think.
At least, I think that's when we met you.
2017, I think.
Yeah, we played a couple of shows together, just, some one-off gigs, and then,
with different bands, but
yeah.
But that's good. At least that way you already knew each other, so you know what the band needs or what they wanted. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and we've known Elijah for a while too, so
it was pretty cool though that Elijah was I want to do guitar stuff.
It all came together really quickly, actually.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
It's not easy to find people that get it and like really know what they're doing. That combination is pretty cool.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're getting total strangers in, you have no idea what you're getting.
It's a gamble, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good to have some people coming in new to the band, but already know what you guys are looking for, and obviously your style and how to fit into that. But still bring something new in, I guess.
Yeah, it was neat because actually a band that I was subbing in for on guitars had played a festival with Netjer literally almost a year ago to the date, and then that's kind of where I saw their show for the first time, and it really blew my mind and all that. So it kind of gave me a good perspective to witness it from an audience first of all, you know what I mean? And then when they wanted me to contribute to the actual songs, like as a member and all that, I was just like, sure, this is awesome,
Yeah,
because
it really blew me away, you know what I mean? So yeah, and then it's like now I'm part of it.
Wow, brilliant. That must be so good. That must be neat. So good. So how were you received? Because obviously your music is a bit different. How are you being received?
It's been interesting. Honestly, it sounds funny, but like it has done fairly well, in all truthfulness. When we played our first official show after everything started to open up was at Verboten Festival here in Vancouver last year. We played at the Rickshaw, one of the big venues here, and that went over really well. There was like a couple hundred people, and so for first show that was I wasn't sure what to expect. We'd had digital content out, but because of everything, you couldn't do anything live, so it was nerve-wracking in the sense of I wonder how people will interact, because it's hard to gauge all the time just through online presence in that regard. The next show we did was Mechanismus Festival in Seattle, which was really interesting. It went over really well. And that one was interesting because we were, from a style point of view, the odd band out. And so I was like, well, this is going to go great. Hopefully we'll find out. And again, that was really interesting because there was a lot of people, that were not friends or people who know us. So it was a lot of strangers really enjoyed what they heard. They liked how different it was.
Bought all the merch,
which I was like shocked. Yeah. So that was really wonderful. And it was nice to hear people that I don't know or don't really know us give that type of feedback. Terminus Festival last year in Calgary, that went over really, really well. It was really great. This newest show we just played here in Vancouver, it was a Vancouver Industrial Showcase, a bunch of us local musicians from here and on Vancouver Island. I know I was nervous in the sense of, because now guitar and drums, I love it. I think it's great, but how are people know us with a specific sound? This is slightly modified. How is that going to go? But I think, the feedback I got was, it was like one of the best shows we ever played.
Yeah, overwhelming.
I can speak to that too, if what people told you.
Yeah, it's unusual because it's always difficult, isn't it? If you're changing some part of your style that you've been known for, it's always a bit scary.
Bit of a risk. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And some people that do from that have been to a few of our shows and that are musicians or do reviews semi-professionally said they didn't know how it was going to go, but it actually worked really well. So that was really good to hear. We still have the challenge. So with when you said how it is received, we didn't have, so the live shows, all the feedback was really good. We didn't have a lot of luck finding a label for the album, just because the metal labels were like, well, this is too electronic. And the electronic labels were like, oh, it's too not fancy enough.
Yeah.
So they basically all said like, yep, I like it, but we don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So, it's also partly about honing in the style and finding that right balance, right? Keeping that essence, but then trying to like at least move into a direction where you can hopefully work with somebody in that way. Because doing it on your own is a challenge. It's tricky.
It's a lot of work.
Expensive.
Inexpensive. Yeah, and that's where, with Elijah's guitars, that's, personally, when I, had this idea for this project, I always wanted a guitar. That was always kind of the original idea. So now with having, the guitar in it, I'm personally hoping that we can get to more of the little bit of the heavier side to open a little bit more of those doors is kind of the long-term goal, to see how, how things get going with the newer material that we're writing right now. So
at the moment you're doing everything yourself?
Yes. It's all done through us. Yeah.
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yes, it's a lot of work.
I mean, it's nice because you own everything and every aspect of it, but on the other hand, it's also difficult to kind of get the foot in the door in
exactly
certain places.
Absolutely. And that's, with working with, people like William Zimmerman and stuff for some of our for the releases and for the album has been really helpful. And he's wonderful human. And, it's worked really well. So, that's a really good connection to keep working with for our future releases for sure. Because, like I said, it's really the sum of all the parts. It's not just, it can't just be one person. It's impossible at that point, really.
Exactly. And your music is certainly good enough to be with a good enough label to help you through that. I mean, it's unreal sometimes how labels are so, I don't know, picky, aren't they?
Yeah.
We really are. I mean, you have bands out there that are like yourself, and they're great bands, and they've got great music, and then labels are so reluctant to even take a risk.
I think part of it is a bit of the pandemic and after effects of how it's affected the music industry in general, and everybody's trying to figure out the best balance between how to keep going forward after such a big shock to the, to the arts and culture industry. So, we're keep a positive outlook and keep on trekking, and
it'll happen.
On sending it out and see what happens.
Yeah,
You'll definitely get there. You'll definitely get there. Are you planning Europe at any point?
Yes.
Yes.
At 100%.
Yeah.
I'm from there, right? So I kind of have
I was going to say there's different accents here.
Yes. Yeah. I'm from Germany. We're rather international now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I feel like it would work really well there, just because what I found a little. So I've been to a lot of festivals in Europe, and then I've been to things like smaller things in North America in this scene, which is very. They have a lot of interesting new stuff happening here, and in Europe, a lot of the festivals still have essentially the same lineups they had when I went there 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So they're seem to be still a little reluctant on new things coming out and up. One that has been making a splash was Actors. They're from Vancouver. We've recorded with the singer Jason has been doing the vocal recordings with us, which is really interesting. And this is the one band that kind of made it into the lineups there that is kind of new. So I feel like it might be just interesting to do.
Yeah, and a lot of our when you analyze a lot of the data behind the social media, a good chunk of it, besides just the local spot here with our friends and family who listen to it, a lot of the people who are listening or buying are from Europe and specific areas in Europe, which I find really fascinating. So it is definitely a future goal, maybe next year or the year after. We'll see how things go to try and do stuff. And it's easier to travel because it's not so far apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could do almost whole of Europe so easily.
Exactly. So that is a big goal. To be honest, that would be something I think we'd all really like to working forward to. So.
Absolutely.
But you are right. The festivals are still the same lineups, aren't they?
It's noticeable by now, right? I find it interesting and just being take a little bit of a risk, and even the newer bands that are coming in, a lot of them do sound very similar. Oh look, there's the other Rammstein sounding band, right? So or just there isn't a lot of. I think really new. I think VGT, which is happening right now,
yes,
is still doing something interesting that way, but they just can do it because it's such a huge festival. I think this year again they had 250 bands for the 30-year anniversary.
But I did notice that I think I'm pretty sure he's Canadian. Mac Fox, Zwar Machine. Have you heard of them?
I don't know. Do you know that?
I think he's from Canada. He is from Canada because I remember his accent. And he was kind of, he does his own industrial thing. He's like yourselves. He's got his drummer is from Germany or Denmark or something like that as well. So it's not all in Canada. And I've just noticed that he's going to do some concerts in Europe supporting Front 242.
Oh, right on.
And that's come from
That's awesome.
That'd be all right.
Yeah.
So absolutely fantastic. So it can happen. It can happen.
Absolutely.
But it is that
We'll do it.
It's that Europe, isn't it? You've got to trap into that. You've got to get in there. Definitely. Yeah. And there's quite a lot of, your music, obviously, there's a lot of folk in there, isn't there, as well? The with nature kind of style. And there's a lot of kind of festivals that go around that as well in Europe.
Yes, there's definitely a few on my radar that I'd just like to attend in person just for fun, but definitely, obviously, it would be good to actually be able to play at some of those. And yeah, I do really feel strongly that if, with this lineup now, we can, get some of the next album out and really, really hone in on the sound. I think that would really be something to be able to showcase for those types of festivals.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure what to expect from you guys when I first heard you. thought, okay, this is different. This is different. The more you listen, and this last release especially, it really did impact on my, the auditory side of things. And it was just, wow, this is actually really good music, and it should definitely be out there more, and then you kind of get more excited about talking to you guys and finding out more about the music. And that's why I looked into it more, and I found out about the Egypt side and things like that, because I was just so interested, because the music was interesting.
Thank you.
It really brings something different to people. And that's always a good thing when you've got something different out there, and you just got to get people to hear it.
Thank you.
It's going to keep getting crazier, I guarantee it.
Yes.
That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, for real.
So what's next for you guys, as in releases? I know you said you got some songs kind of ready.
Yeah. So we have a couple new songs that we're working on. And so we're going to be working on like some brand new material, getting the guitar and the drums now actually, fully integrated. Potentially maybe release some of the older stuff, in the future with the newer additions, as well as, continue to keep on playing live shows and keep getting the name
That's
out there.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
We have one coming up in Edmonton, Elijah's hometown.
Yes.
In September. So that one is lined up. And hopefully we can play a new song there.
Yes.
That's kind of the goal.
Oh. I was going to say to you, do you plan to go back over your songs and redo them with the new lineup?
I think so. I think I'd like to get, like a new album out with the new lineup first, with all brand new. And then I think it could be interesting to do like a remix album of our own, like just remix ourselves with the new lineup and release some of that. I think that would be
interesting.
It'd be really interesting. Yeah.
It's been really cool because some of the songs just got like such a different, not different, but there's still the same song, but it had like like different atmosphere. And the whole music is still, it's lower tempo. It's not super fast, but then you get like this like really darker atmosphere to it, to some of them, and some of them end up being a little more upbeat. So it's been pretty exciting process to see.
Well, the great thing is with your next gig, if you're going to play your previous tracks with the new lineup, you'll be able to gauge people's thoughts towards it, won't you? Because you'll get their reactions, which is always good. You can't get that from, I don't know, Bandcamp or anything, can you? I mean,
yes, exactly. And that was where this last show at the end of April here in Vancouver was about that too, just seeing, engaging, audiences' reactions to us playing our older songs with the newer additions. And it was pretty positive, to be honest. So
people loved
that gets more, more enthusiasm to keep going forward, right?
Yeah, you can't let anything get you down though, can you?
Yeah.
Not when you've got a project like this that is so already good. Don't let that anything get you down on that. Definitely not. Just keep pushing forward. You'll get there.
Thank you. It's always good to hear sometimes because the music industry is
hurting right now. It's a real struggle at the moment.
I can imagine what it's like. And do you think it's a little bit harder? I mean, I know there's more and more coming out of there, but do you think it's harder because you are so kind of not isolated, but you're so far north in the world in Canada? Is it harder to kind of get your music out there and push downwards kind of thing?
I would kind of say so. Like, even if you think about it in the context of Europe, then for sure. And the other problem too is even Seattle is only a 2.5 hour drive from here. But the visas are prohibitively expensive when you're like a not super well-known band, right? the guarantee is not even close to covering the cost for a visa. So you'd want to line up at least a couple of dates for a tour in like along the West Coast or through the US to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, that's probably, as far as the States go, that's the biggest hurdle, is the financial side of needing to get those visas in order to play in that country is quite steep. Yeah.
So I didn't even realize that Canadians needed a visa to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The price recently doubled earlier this year, actually. Literally, it doubled.
Really?
So,
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought you could literally cross the border from Canada into America and vice versa. No,
unfortunately, we can't. It's
then
frustrating thing. Unfortunately, yeah. It's very frustrating. It's quite difficult. I can
understand why you prefer, in a way, Europe, because of the easy way to travel across the whole place.
Exactly.
Once you get into Europe, you can go all in the Schengen area, and even getting performing and things like that is they don't make it as hard as the Americans.
No,
don't know. Like Adrian and with his other bands has had stories to tell on just getting through American customs. It's I know the pain too.
He does too. Yeah.
But I will say, if you do go that way, there is one thing I did pick up from another band. I haven't interviewed them, but I think they're from America. They did their first self-funded and everything as well. Their first concerts in Europe. Then they got across Europe, went to the UK, got stuck at the airport because in France they hadn't signed something on their instruments import-export kind of thing. And the customs kept them there for hours and couldn't release their instruments. And I remember the lead singer, she went on YouTube crying, saying, we're not going to make the gig because they won't let our instruments out.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Why are you doing that to people, you know?
Yeah, it's horrible. It can be the smallest thing.
Pardon?
Go ahead, Raven.
No, go ahead, Elijah. It's all good.
Oh, I was just saying, it can be the smallest thing sometimes, unfortunately, that just, it just completely holds you up or whatever. And it's like, you got to make sure to dot all your I's and all that, right? But yeah,
exactly right. And if you've put you've got the financial burden of it. And if something goes wrong, that could literally break you. You know, that could be the major part of your tour, could be several gigs in one country, and if something small breaks that, that could be it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where it's that's why it is so important, especially now after the world changing. Why going and supporting live music and buying the merch and stuff is so important, because it's literally the bread and butter behind the scenes of all of us trying to make music. It really, really is, and it's whether you're a bigger known band or not, it's definitely, I've seen bigger known bands who are on labels and even they're still struggling, right, because of everything. So it is a really important element to this.
Go to small shows.
Yes.
Buy the merch.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true, though, isn't it? That is true. I mean, from streaming, I've heard the horror stories. It's just you hardly get anything back, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
It all works one way, that one.
Yeah, it does.
And then if you're with some record companies, it's all their way.
Yeah.
So it's always the little artist that's left struggling at the end of it. So it is the merch, isn't it, that gets you there.
Yeah.
So
Raven is doing some great
we have cool merch.
Unique merch. Yeah, there's bones with the logo, and
I have wood cut engraved with our logos and pins and necklaces and T-shirts, of course, patches, toques, vinyl stickers, the whole 9 yards. So
that's brilliant. talking about what you've just said there, unique and things, and into the nature and, like you said, the wood. Do you ever see the Big Bang Theory?
Yes.
Do you remember when they bought a limited edition, I think it was a Lord of the Rings magic wand, and he said, "You've sent me a stick," and then he looked and went, "Oh, numbers, limited edition."
yeah, basically. Yep. But put numbers on it. That's what I should do.
When you said wood, I thought of that straight away.
Well, but it has been interesting though, because I do make, when we do the t-shirts, I do make a limited run of whatever design it is, and once they're done, they're done. I do that intentionally, A, because it's expensive, and B, because it gives an opportunity, because once they're gone, they're gone. I'm not going to reprint them. And it's been a really interesting thing in that regard, because like even at the show in April, there was quite a few people that you could see had the different types of shirts that has been released over the last few years, which was really, really cool. So that was kind of a fun thing to see, now that that's been kind of going a little bit in the crowd. So
I kept like seeing a shirt and I'd be like, "Yo, I didn't even know we had this one. That's sick."
I mean, you don't anymore, but
I want that, man. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's a good idea, limited edition runs.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of entices the fans. Look, get it now, because that goes. You're not going to get a chance again.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you do that with your music releases, or are you only digital at the moment?
We're only digital right now.
Yeah. Are your plans to do other formats?
I would like to. Again, it's also a money factor. And it's the age-old question of, are CDs worth it anymore? We have talked about it. It's not a lot of people buy CDs, but some people still do. Is it worth dropping the money for that many amount of CDs? Unless we had like a decent sized tour to do it, I don't know if it's really worth it. And even then, it depends on if people still want to buy CDs anymore, because, I know I don't use CDs anymore. I don't, maybe one or two people I don't do once in a while. So it's a bit of a balancing act of, is it worth it or not, really?
And I mean, the other option would be vinyl, but we still don't know if the kind of people that are listening to our music are the ones that would buy vinyl, right? It's more obvious for post-punk bands or something like that, where they're like, yep, this is the best-selling kind of thing. But I think for us, it's kind of tricky to kind of gauge if it makes sense or not, because you don't want to sit on 100 records that are very expensive to make, especially right now. It's the same with shirts too, just on how the production cost, how it's gone up in the past 2 years. It's been pretty painful for anything.
Yeah, so it is really that balancing act. I mean, we do like the Bandcamp download codes. I give them to anybody who buys the merch. They get one of those if they haven't gotten it already. And I'd much rather link the audience members to the online presence, because that is quite important now in the music industry. And go it from that route and try. But never say never. I mean, it'd be kind of fun to have my own CDs, but we'll see.
Yeah, I certainly think playing more shows going forward will give us a good indication of like how that kind of stuff might fly with the audiences and people who are buying the merch and all that, right? So yeah, I feel like it's just a little too early to say at the moment.
You are definitely right. I mean, the costs I think involved in like vinyl and things like that is just crazy, isn't it, nowadays? It really is. I did speak to somebody yesterday who's actually releasing on cassette.
Oh, cool.
And that was unusual to hear. But then again, he said even the cost to them, it's so expensive to make.
Yes.
That's just
printing the little booklets and stuff. Yeah.
But when you think about it, there's nothing to it though, is there? Like a CD, there isn't anything to it. CDs are so cheap. Why are they costing so much to master? I don't know. I just
oh yes, that is the question.
You'll never know.
And it's not the bands, it's somebody else out there making a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
But it seems unfair. So is there anything else you guys would like to talk about or mention here? Because obviously this is your chance to basically spread the word.
Upcoming show, I guess, again.
Yeah. So our next show is in Edmonton on the 23rd of September. So we'll be playing with a few local bands like Scott Fox from My Garden Sphere and Nebula Complex, a good friend of ours from Calgary. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. You can find all of our social media, all of our links, everything on hemnetjer.band. Everything's on our website. You can find us all over the internet. I spam it on a regular basis.
Our new album has been out for a while. Yeah, it's available on Spotify and Bandcamp and
iTunes, YouTube, all the places.
We're also really proud of our music videos. So anybody who wants to watch them should check them out. Like you said with Elemental Cry, we actually had drone footage. So we had somebody doing drone shots. So it kind of really worked with the music too.
Yeah.
And see, hands up. I didn't see that video. So that's the impression I got from just the music. So
yeah.
Check it out.
which is great because it kind of, we got to actually do some drone shots and
But going forward, the band, we're all really excited to get, especially now with this new lineup, to really get some more music out there. To really hone in on how that's going to work for us, keep playing shows and so keep following because there's lots of really cool stuff coming your way. Really. So that's the plan.
And I can certainly vouch for your last release. That is really good. So
thank you.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I think it's very important also, like, the people understand, support the live music.
Yeah.
And go to your local, support your local bands, wherever you are. Just support the bands. It's very important for musicians right now.
Yes, very much.
Definitely.
Plus, then eventually you can be the one saying, "I was there when nobody knew them."
Yeah. Which is so cool.
Yeah, it is. That is brilliant.
For real.
Love that. Well, is that all you want to mention? If there's anything else you can.
Elijah, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I think it should be good. Yeah, the show coming up, it's going to be killer. Just another city, to try out this new lineup and all that. I just know it's going to go over well because Vancouver was amazing, and we'll keep spreading the word. You know what I mean? It's only going to grow from here for sure.
Definitely agree with that. Well, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much success in the coming months and
Appreciate that.
years, I hope. Definitely. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. Anytime.
Thank you, sir.